Welcome to a very special edition of the Whistleblowers. We are here to talk Igor Tudor, the new Tottenham interim manager. Delighted to say we're joined by an expert of Croatian football, Lovre, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Interesting news, I gotta say. Wasn't expecting this.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, Tottenham will, as we will get on to, have a bit of a history of Croatia. We've got some some of our very best players from Croatia. We've got some current Croatian players. Now we have a Croatian manager as well. So there'll be surely lots to talk about as well. But you might have noticed there's no Connor today, but we've stepped up with a big deputy in friend of the show, Luke. My friend, Luke, how are you doing?
Yeah, cheers, mate. We're a bit like Spurs. We're trying to fill plug gaps everywhere, right? Getting last minute call ups.
You're like an interim today, aren't you? You're like a new interim for us as well. Yeah, brilliant.
Thanks a lot for having me. Always a pleasure coming on. Thank you. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. So me and Luke are going to host together, and we'll just get straight into it then. So yesterday, Tottenham appointed. It's been officially confirmed today. Igor Tudor as interim manager. To be honest, it came out of the blue. I don't think there were no sort of links to it. Came out of nowhere, happened very quickly in the morning. And then it was announced officially today. Just wondering, Lovra, sort of, has it made the news in Croatia as well? Is it sort of, I know that there's obviously been Croatian managers in the Premier League before, Slaven Bilic and people like that. Is this sort of, did it make the waves in Croatia too?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we haven't had a Prem manager since Juric at Southampton. So even that was covered widely, because whenever we get a player or a manager, it's big news for us, because we normally don't get so many managers at that high a level in the biggest league in the world. And a club like Tottenham, which probably is now is the biggest manager at the biggest club.
Yeah, of course, and. Because this one, obviously, we know he's an interim manager and he has a bit of a history when it comes to the management. But if we go back in time a little bit before then, what was his sort of reputation as a player in Croatia? Because obviously we know that he played for Juventus. Is he sort of a well-regarded figure in the football game of Croatia?
Yeah, he's well regarded as a manager and as a player. As a player, he's a Juve legend. I mean, what else is there to say? He was a great national team player, but he's mostly known for his time at Juve, and he showed really last season how good of a manager he is at Juve as an interim. But the less we speak about is this season as a permanent manager at Juve. I think it's for the best.
Yeah, and we will definitely be coming on to his reputation as an interim and his permanent manager, because I think the two things differ. Luke, what was your sort of reaction to the news when you heard this? Because obviously we've spoken a lot this week in particular about who's going to take over. This name was not mentioned at all. How were you thinking about it?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of come out of the blue. I'm sure everybody has the same sort of feeling around it. There didn't seem to be, as you've just mentioned, there wasn't really any rumours in the English press. There wasn't anything coming out from Spurs, so a bit of a shock. I can understand it. There's a lot of reasons as to why it makes sense. However, there's also a lot of question marks and kind of, I wouldn't say negatives, but more like question marks around it, obviously being used to the Premier League and that sort of stuff. But I think that from what I can kind of gather, it's kind of a steady appointment from looking at his previous reputation. He seems to go in and get an instant results, right? He seems to change things around pretty quickly. Maybe there's reasons and we can go into those, but Spurs need a lift, and they just need it very quickly. And if we get that lift, then hopefully it puts us in a position where we're not worrying about belt teams behind us. So I'm thinking maybe that might be part of it. But I am interested to know, obviously talking about reputation, how are Spurs viewed in the Croatian kind of world? Because obviously we live and breathe Spurs, so we see ourselves in a certain light. But speaking to people from outside that circle, is this proved as a huge club or a huge challenge for him to come in and kind of prove himself, or is it just kind of, as you mentioned about Southampton, is it just another Premier League team from the Croatian aspect?
No, it's a big club. You guys are in the Champions League. You won the Europa League last season. You've been constant in Europe for many years now. It's a big club. You're one of the, well, maybe not top four, but top five, top six. You're in that conversation, right? In the Prem. You're obviously probably the biggest club a Croatian manager has managed in the Prem. If I can trace my mind to another manager that managed somebody at that level. So definitely, even at an interim job, it's a big thing because, as you said, he's famous for his interim jobs. He's done really well at Juve and at Lazio. Brought Lazio from, I think, 10th or 11th to 7th and got them Europa League football. Juve kept them in the Champions League spot last season. He's a hot fixer. He can get a team back together. The only problem right now is the only concern you can have about him is he's never managed in the Prem.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that was a big question mark. And the reason yesterday, I think we got in touch, Lovray, together. Obviously, you run a Croatian football account, which we will link to without doubt in the show notes of this. Please go and check it out. I guess you had a bit of a busy day yesterday, lots of people getting in touch with you. But when I reached out to you, you did say that you have a sort of, he has a history with the club that you support. Is that correct? Is it Hajduk Split?
Yeah, he has history. I mean, that's he had he was 2 times the manager of Hajduk back in 2012, 2013. He won us the cup. I think it's his only trophy as a manager. And after that, we had a drought for 10 years. But before that drought in 2020, he was our manager again. And that was awful. That was Jesus Christ. But the problem with that Hajduk side was we didn't have much money and we had a lot of injuries. So a player like Marin Jakolic, who was brought in as a striker, was playing right wing back because he was really determined to play free at the back. And he didn't stop at anything. And we finished 5th. And that season, when he managed, he took over, I think, in January. So he managed half a season, but he was brought in as a permanent job. But we finished 5th, and that season, 2nd place in the HNL in the Croatian league led to a Champions League qualifying spot.
And I think, when you get a new manager, there are sort of 2 things that you sort of look out for. One is their personality. The other one is their football style and their tactics. Let's talk about personality first, Lovre. What sort of person is he on the touchline? Is he sort of a commanding figure? How does his personality translate to his managing?
He's commanding. I don't know if you guys remember, but I've seen a few Tottenham fans on Twitter and on Reddit go back to the match he managed with Marseille against you guys. I forgot what match it was. I think it was
a couple of years ago in the Champions League.
Yeah, I think it was at your stadium where at the end of the match, right before you scored the winner, he was inside of the pitch. Like telling his players where to be, what to do. So he's really demanding. He wants to be on top of things. He speaks with his players constantly over a match. Really vocal on the pitch and off the pitch. Some of his press conferences, like back in the day, 13 years ago, as a Hajduk manager, are still spoken about. It's like Gattuso's press conferences for us Croatians.
And obviously, in that light, the Premier League is obviously regarded as the biggest league in the world in terms of media spotlight and attention. How do you think he will handle? Because obviously, the press conferences that he will be dealing with will be national news everywhere. We saw Thomas Frank in particular struggled with it at times, I think, and he, I think in the press he sort of let himself down a little bit and found it difficult to deal with the amount of scrutiny. How do you think Igor Tudor will deal with being the manager of a Big Six club in the biggest league in the world?
Well, he managed Juve and he played for Juve. He's used to it.
Of course,
he's really used to it. So I don't think he will. If a interviewer, if a journalist asks a stupid question, I don't think he's gonna take any chance. And I think he's just gonna call them out and not take any nonsense.
And his English is quite good, right? I've heard his English is very
good. Yeah, he's good.
It just in terms of, you said that obviously he seems like a very intense character. He seems like someone who's, as you said, always on the touchline, very animated, etc. Do you think that that's why the instant results are part of the character? Because people it's an instant shock to the system. And then obviously, as I say, at Spurs at this moment in time, it's a 6-month deal. There doesn't seem to be an extension. But do you think that that's part of the reason why he sees the immediate, because he's such a provocative character? And maybe that's why, as well, in the long term, maybe why sometimes that's a bit of a problem, because you can't constantly be butting heads. Do you think that that's what, are the Spurs players in for a bit of a shock, basically, is the question?
Yeah, they are. That's definitely part of the reason. He can fire you up in a second. He's really good with players short term, but long term he can have fallouts with players and problems with certain individuals and certain personalities. And also some tactics wise, if you keep him for longer and he really tries to buy in players for his tactics, that can go wayward. But personality wise, he's, I think, exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, that was part of what I was going to ask. In terms of the tactics, you mentioned it there. So he played a striker at right wing back. Does that mean that he's got a very rigid formation, and whether we've got players that fit that or not, it doesn't make a difference? Because there are some that will try and change it up. Is he one that could we be seeing players play out of position because actually we don't have someone fit? For instance, we spoke about injuries already.
Yeah, well, I think that comes down to him being an interim manager now. Because right now, I think he's going to prefer results over, trying to build a system as he did at Hajduk. So as an interim, I think he's if you get you have like 3 center backs healthy right now, right? Yeah. So if another one gets injured, I think then he's going to switch to a 4 at the back, because it doesn't make sense to force somebody into a center back position that he's never played before. And I think he's going to prefer something that's going to improve his chances at a good result, rather than sticking to because he's an interim. At the end of the day, he's here to get results.
Yeah. So he's got 12 games, obviously, with Tottenham, and obviously, it's no surprise it's no shock to him that Tottenham are in a very precarious position. If it goes wrong, it could potentially be relegated, which is why obviously this move has happened in the first place. When you were following him at Hajduk, how quickly did he make an impact? Because obviously Tottenham, he's got no time at all to turn things around, and if it goes wrong, then we could actually be relegated. Did you notice an immediate impact when you were following him at Hajduk?
Certain matches, his Hajduk tenure was really specific. I think when he came, I think we only had 1 draw under him in that half a season we had, and 1 match he managed in the start of the new season before getting picked up by Pirlo at UA as an assistant. So we had only 1 draw. So and he was really, you win 1, you lose 1. It was that, and we couldn't get it over the line. But then again, that Hajduk squad was really poor because we were very tight on money. So it was a lot of youngsters who didn't play for Hajduk again after that season.
And you just mentioned it there. We will go back over his other career as well. Was it a surprise that he went from Hajduk to an assistant at Juve? Because obviously he'd managed a few big teams, including Galatasaray before that, and Udinese, Hajduk themselves. Was it a surprise to you that he then? And why do you think he might have then said, "Well, actually, I'm now going to take an assistant's job"? But obviously, Juventus are a gigantic club. But were you surprised that he took an assistant's job after that?
Well, no. I mean, a lot of fans were upset because he signed a long-term deal and we started the season with a win. So everybody was like, okay, maybe we can get something going here. It's a new season. You never know. Like the last season, we did finish 5th, worst result for Hajduk in years and years. But oh well. But we were looking forward to it. Then obviously, as a shock, out of nowhere, it came that Pirlo wanted him, and he really wanted him. So I mean, Tudor can't reject a call from UA. It's really impossible for him, because it's his club.
In terms of, like, as I said about his own tactical aspects and the way that he likes to play football, Spurs obviously defensively are a little bit all over the place. At any given time, we can concede goals, and in an attacking aspect, I mean, Solanke's come in and kind of improved it, but we're not really creating chances as often as Spurs fans would like. Do you think he's going to come in with immediate priorities? Obviously, picking up points, as you said, is the main priority. But is he a manager that's going to come in and go, if I can get the defense solid, we'll score the odd goal? Is he going to come in and say, actually, if we go forward, then actually we'll just outscore our teams? Where do you think his priority will be in terms of the tactical aspects at Tottenham Hotspur?
Oh, well, it's really tough to say, because He likes, like, tactics-wise, he likes a solid defense, but at the same time, he likes to press high, but then likes to drop into a very low block, because Italian. He's an Italian manager, but the problem is, how is that going to translate into the Prem? Because it works really well in Serie A for when he did it with Lazio and Juve in his interim jobs, and Udinese before he joined Hajduk. But how that's going to translate into the Prem, it's going to be, but I think he values defense more. I think he definitely values defense more, as, again, but really high pressing. He's really intense and really vertical.
And the other thing I was just going to ask, in terms of, and I don't know how much knowledge you've got over Mawani, but obviously he was a player that he had, and Spurs fans have not seen the best of Mawani at all. It's been a real difficult situation.
No Premier League goals.
And a lot of fans were quite happy with that as a signing. We knew that he obviously wanted to go Juve, but it didn't work out. But we wanted him the season before and everything else. But he's not really hit the ground running. There were even conversations amongst the fan base about potentially him going back, and obviously Juve wanting to kind of get him back. Do you know what the relationship was like with him? Did he manage to get the best out of him? Did they get on well? And again, you might not know too much about that individual situation, but it'd be interesting to know whether you do.
Yeah, I think in that half a season that Tudor managed them, I think he got 3 goals in an 11, which, I mean, it's not the best, but it's 3 goals. But I think he had a good relation with it because Moani fits what he wants from his striker, at least from what he played at Juve as a 9. He wants a 9 who can, take pressure on him, have a player on his back and play the ball to the left or the right, and then sprint back into the box and have a chance. So he definitely fits his what he liked with Vlahovic. I think he likes 9s the most for his strikers.
And I put you on the spot here, Lovely. I don't know how much your knowledge is of the Tottenham squad. Could you know that of the current squad that we've got now? Can you see any of the players really thriving under because we've been sort of underperforming under Thomas Frank all season, really, and there hasn't really been any standout performers other than perhaps the centre backs. We've been scoring a lot of goals from set pieces and things. Could you see any of the current Tottenham squads thriving under Igor Tudor?
I'm not sure, because right now I want to see how he starts first. But if I had to pick somebody, maybe Xavi Simons.
Yeah,
because
Spurs fans are all hoping to hear, to be honest.
Yeah, because I think he at Juve he really pushed forward Kenan Yildiz, and Kenan Yildiz excelled under him. So I think he could do the same with Xavi if he really starts focusing on him, or Conor Gallagher maybe, somebody in the attacking midfield.
I was just going to say, in terms of, I've seen contrasting kind of information around about the attacking positions. Some have said that he's keen to operate almost like 2 10s with a number 9. Others have said that he kind of likes to have a partnership up there. So I think it was Moani and Vlahovic were the ones together. Is he flexible just on who he's got? So, for instance, if he's got players that are suited a bit more to 2 10s, he goes with that? Or is it just like, for instance, for Moani, for us, has often played sort of off the left or not been the focal striker? What do you think the situation will be? Do you think Moani will be played more as a 9 and will play with 2 9s and an Xavi in behind, for instance? Or do you think it might be they would be the wider of the 10s with a central number 9?
Well, right now I think he's gonna, because he really liked he really likes using 9. So I think maybe as a 9, but if that doesn't go well, he'll obviously switch it. But that's gonna all happen in training. So I think maybe not the first match against Arsenal, but the match after that is Fulham, I think, for you guys. Yeah. I think at Fulham, I think you'll know what he's going for.
And this comment here from Dominic. So it seems like both in terms of personality and tactical fit, a lot of comparisons have been drawn to Conte. Obviously, Conte had a spell at Tottenham, which went really well at the beginning and then fizzled out at the end, and ended up with him calling out the owners at the press conferences. Something which I've heard about Igor Tudor doing as well at various places.
Very him and Conte are very.
I was going to say, do you see the similarities between him and Conte, both tactically and personality-wise?
Yeah, they're very similar in both ways. Very similar. Tudor has gone at multiple clubs, started really well, and then in the end, he just calls out the owners and the club.
So we can
really similar,
fireworks, basically.
But he's only here for 6. He's only here for 4 months. So hopefully that's short enough of time, so he doesn't go berserk in a press conference after going away.
Of course, and Luke, you go.
No, I was just going to say, we obviously at Spurs, we've seen quite a lot of, in different ways, we've seen managers kind of have outbursts, but 9 times out of 10, that's around players that are being targeted, the transfer windows, players coming in. And obviously you would expect that he's got a very clear objective in terms of what's required. He's possibly not going to have a transfer window. Obviously there is links to say that there's it's not a permanent position and it won't be going on longer. Is this a sort of a move that was expected for him? Was it always expected that? I know we don't expect him to come to Spurs at this particular time, but was there always a kind of point where he wanted to go to the Premier League? You've already mentioned he was Juve legend. Was that always the pinnacle for him? Was there a Premier League always kind of spoken about? Because not all managers actually do want to come over to the Premier League or have that push to do it. Did it come out of the blue in terms of, was he ever expected to kind of make that move, or was it Italian football that was kind of going to be where he continues to manage?
It came out of the blue for me because Croatian managers don't manage in the Prem. You know, like we've seen Juric, and that went awful because that one Southampton was awful, but Juric also I don't really think is a manager for the Prem. Tudor is also a really Italian manager, and I was always expecting him. If to go anywhere, I would have expected maybe Germany, maybe even, but probably more Spain. Probably suits him more tactically. But I didn't think this would happen. But then again, this is a good move for him, I think, because if he does a really good job, if he keeps Tottenham up, and let's say maybe he makes the quarterfinals of the Champions League, wins against somebody in the round of 16, and keeps Tottenham up pretty securely, he opens his doors to maybe a mid-table side in the Prem, maybe a high-level side in Italy again, or France. So it's really. It's not high risk. I don't think it's not that high risk for him, because you are 5 points above the relegation zone with 12 matches to go, and West Ham I think has a tougher schedule than you guys, and Forest. Forest is also in between you two, so if somebody was to go down, I think it's either Forest or West Ham. So I think he's done a good job in picking this, because if he does really well, then he opens a lot of pathways for himself.
Yeah, I agree. So I see someone said on X, or there was a few comments made that by not having the extension, or not having, it seems to be a closed book at Spurs. It's going to be till the end of the season, and that's that. Yeah. And it was like, well, he doesn't have any pressures. And I was like, well, surely there is a lot of pressure, really, because if he does end up taking Spurs down at this moment in time, as you said, we're not favourites to go down. The Spurs fans are considering it as a real possibility, but when you actually look at it from the outside, we should have enough to kind of stay up. So I just feel that it was a weird point to make, almost like it was a free hit for him, because obviously it could be really damaging if he takes them down.
Yeah,
and then obviously
that happens,
that gap.
Yeah, if that happens, then his career, I wouldn't say it's over, but then he has to rebuild trust again with football clubs, obviously, because if you take Tottenham down, you got to explain that.
Yeah, and obviously, a lot of managers have failed in inverted commas at Tottenham and gone on to be better things. No one's been relegated, but I guess he could always pass it off as being mainly Thomas Frank at that time. Just to wrap up on this bit about Igor Tudor before we move on to some other things, how do you think obviously his directives are to keep Tottenham in the Premier League and maybe have a run in the Champions League? Do you think he'll be able to achieve those things?
I think he'll be able to achieve staying up in the Prem, because I don't think it's that tough. Obviously, if West Ham continues having good form as they have for now, and Forest maybe get some good run of form under a new manager, but that's two clubs that need really good form, that are 18th and 17th, that struggled the whole season to get form. So I think Tottenham is like 70-80% safe right now. So I think it's a good job, but the problem is for him in the Champions League, he's never managed a knockout match in the Champions League. So we'll see how he fares.
How did he do with Juventus in the Champions League?
I think he played one match or two matches this season, and he drew with Niko Kovac's Borussia 4-4. What a match! But yeah, Marseille is the other team he had in the Champions League, and that was in your group, and he finished last behind Sporting.
Yeah, he did. I remember Spurs fans will remember that match that Højbjerg scored. Before we move on to some other topics, Luke, any more questions about Igor Tudor?
No, not really. As I was going to touch on the tactical aspect, but I think you kind of covered it, because I see, it feels to me that there are variations, but it seems that he's not going to move too much away from the way that we've sort of positioned ourselves in terms of how we're playing. We have been a fairly deep and defensive team. But I think Thomas Frank tried to integrate the sort of pressing, but it never really took off. And I'm hoping that he can kind of come in. So I think that's kind of everything covered. I was going to ask, in terms of, I think you mentioned it earlier, just about what sort of players. Is there a particular player that really sort of flourishes under him? So is his team where a 10 really stands out? Is it the centre halves that really stand out, or anything like that? Is there a particular position, maybe not player for us, but just in terms of a position where he really focuses on? Like we've had it before, where certain managers are very particular in terms of what they require from a right winger, say, or a left winger, or anything like that. Is there anything that really stands out from a tactical aspect that we could probably see very early on in the Spurs reign?
At Marseille, Nuno Tavares, the left back, the wing back, really flourished under him. He played as a wing back, but he was really forward. He was more of a winger in play, in attack. Yeah. And at Juve, Kenan Yildiz flourished under him. So and also he likes using defensive midfielders in build-up. So they also have a good amount of the ball. So Locatelli at Juve, Bertaut at Marseille. One of it depends on the players, because Tavares is really good at playing that really high wing back, pressing really high and going really forward, and Bertaut and Locatelli are really good on the ball. So it depends on what he focuses on most. Is he going to focus on the wing back or attacking midfielder or the defensive midfielders?
And just a final question on Igor Tudor. I think one of the biggest problems of Thomas Frank was that his football was very defensive. Obviously, Tottenham fans in particular have, a history of playing attacking football. We have managers like Ange Postecoglou, Mauricio Pochettino, and Harry Redknapp. Martin Jol played very aggressive attacking football, and managers that didn't do that tended to struggle to win over the fan base. Is Tudor an attacking-minded manager, would you say?
I would say yes. He likes an organized, compact defense, but at the same time, he likes really pressing high and getting the most chances as possible. He doesn't like keeping possession. I would call it more measured possession, where he's like, guys, you can keep the ball for like a few passes, but if we're not going nowhere, I don't want to keep the ball. Let's lose the ball and then get it back immediately in their own half and make them be out of position and get a chance through that somehow. So he doesn't like keeping possession.
And thank you so much for your expert insight on this. It's been a real eye-opener. But before we go, obviously Tottenham have got a real history of Croatia, and obviously with one of the best players of all time, Luka Modric, who I saw scored last night, even at 40 years old. At 40 years old, and I assume that he's probably likely to be the best Croatian footballer ever. But they got a new guy coming through the ranks, who we're very excited about, and I hope that Croatia are too. And Luka Vuskovic. What's the sort of the feeling around him? Because at Tottenham, obviously, he's on loan, but every week he seems to score a goal or win a Bundesliga award or something like that. And it's just, the hype is crazy. He's already been linked to people like Bayern Munich. What's the feeling like in Croatia about this guy at the moment?
At the moment, it just keeps getting higher week after week. Is
he in the Croatian national team?
Yeah, he is. He played in the last international break, and we expect him because Guardiola is injured right now.
Yeah,
he's in doubt for the World Cup, but right now, Chorluka, I think, said after the Nations League draw, that he's expected to return at the start of May, mid of May. So we hope for that, because if we get Guardiola and Vuskovic in the back line, and we also have Stanisic who's playing at Bayern, that defense is going to do really good, because we need a good defense for the type of football we play at international tournaments. But Vuskovic, Jesus Christ, man, he's the best prospect I've ever seen. I'm only 21, but I've seen Halilovic, I've seen Guardiola come through the ranks recently. He's probably the biggest comparison.
Both those players, we always seem to get linked with any Croatian.
Yeah, but Vuskovic was widely known in Croatia at 14. Like, everybody knew that at that age, PSG was interested in him. Multiple other clubs were interested in him. Tottenham was having looks back then. 15, that's when he started scoring from the halfway line in the under-19s games at 15. He was scoring against guys 4 years older than him from the halfway line twice. He was dominating at the under-19 level at 15. And back then, so it's his birthday, I think, in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And switch your mind to 3 years ago. He's still 15, about to turn 16, and Hajduk fans cannot wait. We couldn't wait for him to turn 16 because we had no defenders. So we were waiting him like a messiah, and he came in first match, lost to Dinamo 4-0. Oh well, happens. They beat us easily, but then second match he scores in a quarterfinal, in the quarterfinal of the cup, and leads us to the semifinal. His second match ever, the youngest goal scorer in the cup, I think, in the Croatian Cup. And after that, obviously moved to Tottenham, got a loan to Radomljak, where he did perfectly. Moved to Westerlo, where he did even better. And now he's at Hamburg, as you said, winning Man of the Match awards left, right, and center every week.
His personality and his character has been widely praised already in Spurs fans, because the rumor is that when he actually went out on loan, it was from him and his desire to go and play. He said, I'm not as good as the other two right now, and I want to go and prove myself, which obviously for an 18-year-old is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Is there anything within his game where he's spoken about his pace and said that he wants to improve on that? But is there anything in his game? Because I personally think Gvardiol next to him is very, very good all round, not just as a defender, but obviously be able to play left back and score goals and everything else. Is there anything where you look at them two and you think if he could just learn a little bit more from Gvardiol in this aspect, or do you think that he's already on a level where he should be maybe in a year or time be spoken about as one of the best already around?
He's already doing really well at Hamburg. He kept Harry Kane last match. Not in his pocket, but he kept them sound and silent.
Scored in that as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he also scored. He's the only reason I'm watching Hamburg matches. He's the only reason I turn on Bundesliga, because I don't normally. I only watch like maybe a big derby if it's happening in some other leagues. Mostly, I just watch the Croatian league. But when I saw that, my stream is always behind. Because I live in a dorm, so I can't have TV in my dorm, but I have to watch it for a stream. So every time, because I don't care about the match, I had notifications from SofaScore come up like 10 seconds before. Oh, Hamburg equalized, and I see Vuskovic just running up, and I'm like, surely not. Like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be a defense, my guy. What are you doing running forward? And then he does a perfect run and gets the perfect cross and does a header into the back of the net. And he can do anything, like quite literally. Only, as you said, his only problem, which he's spoken about, is his pace. And he also recently spoke about being too composed on the ball. He's like, I probably need to tone it down a little because I'm probably too composed sometimes.
And obviously, we'll talk about another thing in a second to do his brother. But just before that, is he likely to make the World Cup squad then, even though he's obviously so young still?
I mean, he has to. He's one of the best defenders in the Bundesliga. I don't care what his age is. Dalic shouldn't either. I mean, Dalic, Olic, the under-21s manager, really wants him in the under-21 squad. But at this point, what's the point? What's the point? Like, he's already past that level. He passed under-19s at 15.
Of course, and it's a bit of a complicated situation at Tottenham, because obviously Tottenham fans are desperate to get this guy back. We've heard some news that he might be staying at Hamburg, and I know you guys will probably know more than this than us, because his future is obviously heavily linked to his brother. I'm just wondering what you sort of know about. We've had a Bundesliga expert on before who's spoken about the past of his brother. I just wonder what the sort of, from the Croatian side, about his brother is, because I know he's a cult hero in Hamburg in particular. What's the sort of story that you, as far as you know, about his brother? Because it seems like there might be a chance that he might stay in Hamburg another year just so that he can play with his brother.
So I mean, I think the best thing to happen for this right now, because Luka really wants to play with his brother, and Mario is, if you don't know the story, he got suspended for doping, but the case is really, really controversial, and the way they handled his test is borderline. It just isn't. It doesn't seem right. And they first offered him, I think, a 1 year ban, and then he appealed it, and then they made it 4. for 3 or 4 years. I forgot how it's been so long now.
Yeah, 4, I think. It was,
yeah, and then they upped it to 4 years. Obviously, Hamburg as a club stood behind him. And that meant a lot, obviously, to his family and Luka, which ultimately was the decision why he went to Hamburg. Because the family is close to him. His brother plays for the club. He's still being paid by the club, and he's gonna get a new contract when his ban ends in November, when he's back when he can actually play again. And he said multiple times since even before he joined Hamburg, like 2 or 3 years ago, when he just joined Tottenham, he was still speaking about, like, my biggest dream is playing with my brother, like at least one match. So I think the best case for Tottenham is to, just let him have 6 more months. Have the next season, first half of the season, just have him at Hamburg. Let him have that half season at Hamburg. Play with his brother like 5-6 times. I don't know how many matches he's gonna have in between November and December. Just let him play with his brother, right? Because I think it's gonna really do well for Tottenham. Because at that point, you show loyalty to him. You're like, hey, you can play with your brother, and I think he can repay that. Because if Tottenham gets back to Champions League football next season, he can make them fight for it in the second half. He can play for them, and if they get Champions League football, I don't see any reason why he would go anywhere else. Because if you show him that kind of love and that you care about him and what he wants. Or sign his brother, as the comment says, yeah. But Mario has been out of football, but he's similar to Luka. It's actually crazy how similar they are.
I see the picture, yeah.
Not even the picture, just playing wise.
Yeah.
Mario is really good at taking free kicks. He scored a banger of a free kick at Hamburg before he got suspended in the second Bundesliga. He was taking free kicks at Hajduk. He was taking corners. He's really good on the ball. Both of them are really good on the ball, but Jesus.
Did he get in the Croatian national team?
He did not, but I think if he didn't get banned, I think there was a chance because he was playing really well. So he might have gotten a transfer away from Hamburg, or maybe Hamburg would have gotten promoted earlier if he stayed, if he didn't get the ban.
And I think every Tottenham fan has got an affinity for Croatia just because of the players we mentioned. Modric, Kranjčar, Vuskovic, Luka, Petikosa didn't actually play much for us, but there's a bit of real sort of history there for Tottenham. Do you think, looking at Vuskovic, obviously Tottenham fans are aware where we lie in the food chain. We'd love to keep him forever, but obviously we had to lose Luka Modric. That was painful. And then he went on to be one of the best players of all time. So I think we can stomach that one. Do you think Vuskovic has that kind of future ahead of him? Yeah,
he definitely has. He's the biggest prospect I've ever seen. The sky is his ceiling. Maybe even further. He's playing so well right now that I can't see how he could improve more, but he just does it. So I'm really looking forward to the World Cup because that is going to be his first really big test at an international level, because I think he's going to start. We have many friendlies before then, so we're going to see how Dalic lines us up. But Vuskovic has to start. I think if you ask any Croatian right now, he has to.
And I was going to say, obviously, England fans have found out themselves the hard way. Croatia always do very well in the tournaments lately. They have good pedigree in international tournaments. How's the feeling going into this World Cup for Croatia?
Well, we're missing. We need to know if Guardiola is going to be good, and Kovacic, obviously, he's about to come back from injury. So we're really hoping that nobody else gets injured, that Luka continues playing at the level he has, because he's crucial to what we do, even at 40. But the feeling right now, it's cautiously optimistic. We always want to do good, because last 2 years, we made 2 semifinals. Obviously, the Euros are a different story, sadly. But we were last Euros. Jesus Christ, that was a heartbreak. Conceding against Albania endlessly in the last moments of the game was devastating.
Of course, and before we do go, let you go, Luke. Any more questions?
No, I was just going to say, in terms of the Vuskovic thing, obviously we look at it again very Spurs. It's all about what's best for Spurs right now. Do you think that in terms of what may happen, and what's happened quite regularly at Spurs, is that another loan move comes up for a player and they extend a contract? Or granted, they've never been the level of Vuskovic, but do you think that if Spurs brought him back in and he actually stayed as a first-team player from next season and didn't get the opportunity to play with his brother. Do you think that will kind of be frowned upon from not only his own aspect, but obviously in Croatian football as well? Is it almost an injustice to him and his brother if Spurs don't sort of allow that to happen, especially if we manage to keep sort of the centre halves that we've got? Obviously, there's a lot that can happen, but what do you think the feeling would be around Spurs bringing him in and not allowing him to make that transition and play with his brother?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's also his decision, because he wanted to go on loan because he didn't feel he was ready. So if he feels ready and Tottenham really wants him to be a starter at the start of next season, maybe he'll be like, feel like it's a missed opportunity because his brother is coming back in November, and that's, when's the next time he's going to have that opportunity? So I think he probably will still say, hey, just give me 6 more months, at Hamburg. Let me play with my brother. I still think that's the best way to go around it, because long term, I think you're going to do yourself a big favor, because when you see how Hamburg has treated Mario, and that's why Luka came to Hamburg, is the same. You can also build relations with the Hamburg, and maybe if somebody performs really well at Hamburg, you can get him for a cheap price at Tottenham because you had that good relationship with him and Luka. And I just think long term it makes more sense to just let him fulfill his dream and play with his brother 1 game at least.
And I'm sure everyone in the chat will join me in thinking that this has been a really, really interesting conversation. I'm really, really grateful for your time, Lovely. And, I've learned a lot from it. And, as I always say, that's connection between Tottenham and Croatia has always been there. So hopefully we'll have you on something else to talk about, maybe a Vuskovic episode in the future. But where can people find you online, Lovely?
You can find me at Croatian_footy. Last account got suspended by X, but oh well, it happens. But everybody has followed back, so you can just follow me on Twitter. I post everything about Croatian football every day. If you want to follow the Croatian League, which is entertaining, make sure to follow me every Friday through Sunday.
Fantastic. And Luke, thank you very much for stepping in today. Obviously, what's coming up on your channel in the next couple of weeks?
No, yeah, thanks for having me on. Hopefully, I'm going to start a potential new series, or mini series coming up. I'm going to try to see if I can get some people on that do sort of the different roles within football. So not your standard reporting, your managers, that sort of stuff, but sort of like player liaison officers, players, people that are doing jobs at sort of youth level that we as fans don't really see or understand. So I'm hoping to get a few people on and run some videos. But we'll be going live on Thursdays as we always do, and then maybe we'll have the odd one. We need a good old therapy every now and then. So
we certainly do. And Lovre, I'm going to push you one last time. Will Igor Tudor keep Tottenham in the Premier League?
Yes.
Come on. Thank you very much, guys. And we're going to do another couple of deep dives on Igor Tudor, looking at the Serie A angle tomorrow. And come on, you Spurs.